see you. So I don't know if anybody else will come. I'll just admit them as they do. So welcome. I actually wrote something out. I guess I read it. And we have this like homemade sign, but we won't use that today. So our guests today are two women who have written a book about Detroit and rap and its role in music and community building.
Nice.
Farrugia, is that how you say? How do you?
It is, yes.
All right. Farrugia is an associate professor for media studies at Oakland University, and Hay is a professor of cultural studies, and they document women's place in Detroit hip hop. And how the work of creating a space for women in the male-dominant scene connects to community activism. So their book is Women Rapping Revolution, Hip Hop and Community Building in Detroit. You can get it almost anywhere online. It's California Press, right?
It is. Wow, you have a copy. That's awesome.
I need a copy.
I do. Yeah, you need a copy.
We have a 30% off coupon, like flyer, if anybody.
Wow. Oh, I wish I'd known that before I got it, but that's okay. I had a quote in here I was going to read. This is what it says. There are no two other individuals, aside from Piper Carter herself, who I feel are more qualified to lend voice and insight in what was the foundation, what is now We Found Hip Hop, and what ultimately became a piece of Detroit's hip hop historical landscape and will be a capstone for Detroit women in hip hop. And that was written by Mahogany Jones. So you're going to talk about your collaborative ethnography. That's what you called it. There's a lot of anthropology there in that introduction about how to do research. So, but it's how to understand, appreciate, uncover, amplify the voices of hip hop in Detroit and what it means to Detroit. So we don't really have any questions. We just want you to talk.
Okay. We didn't prepare a formal presentation or anything, but
good.
Okay, great. So Kellie loves to talk methodology. So since we started with, ethnography, maybe Kellie wants to start us off with how we got here. Is she here?
Yeah, she was on mute. She was on mute.
You're on mute.
It's like teaching.
Oh.
Unmute. There we go. Can you hear
me?
Yes.
All right. Well, okay. So ethnography is a big word for how you do embedded research, where you immerse yourself in a community or a culture that's outside of, it's either completely outside of your bailiwick or it's something that you kind of have one foot in and one foot outside of. So you're trying to become a participant or observer where the community teaches you what's going on. You don't teach them. So to do it collaboratively is not common. Usually it's individuals that write these sorts of books. So when you do it together, it changes the whole dynamic of how you process what's going on and how you talk about it, how you write about it, and you become a we very quickly, and there's no I's left at the end of the day. And that's kind of how this community is, we came to them as a we, and then it became a bigger we, and it took a whole year to get what anthropology would call entree, right? Before the community invites you in to say, okay, we'll let you hang with us and figure out what's going on here with us. And so doing it together meant we went Tuesday nights, like at least twice a month for a couple of years, to their Tuesday night open mic, which the foundation is this women in hip hop collective that we studied. And they had a mission of getting not only women on the stage, but creating community and sort of a civic consciousness about Detroit and about what it means to claim Detroit. And so in as much as they were making art and culture, they were making very decisive statements about what's up with Detroit and their right to claim it. So to do this collaboratively means that you have two heads, two hearts, a lot to negotiate together on top of back and forth with the community.
I'm going to ask a question now that I've thought of it. So we found that with the Detroit bass players, it's the most welcoming community ever. It's all these bass players, and even though I didn't grow up in Detroit, it makes me feel like I'm part of Detroit. The history, understanding the music, but they were so open and welcoming. Is that what you found?
Oh, yeah.
It's okay.
Definitely. When I said it took a year, it's like it just took a year for us to know each other, for them to figure out what we wanted to understand, and for them to trust us. I mean, they opened their whole lives to us, their homes, they traveled with us, their histories, all of that. And they gave us rights to their music and whole songs. We don't just have clips of lyrics, you'll find the whole thing in there. And so they gave us access to them, you know, and so we were very welcomed. And we are very often the only white folks around. And so, you know, remember, Rebekah, some would be singing and be like, oh, the chocolate and a little bit of vanilla, you know, I mean, they would include us any way they could.
And I think it's important to mention that sort of like we went on a journey while they went on a journey. So we got to see this group of people like develop as a collective, you know, deal with the challenges that they face doing that. Piper, I wish she was here. She could talk about this. Moved back to Detroit in 2009 from New York City. And she really felt like there was a lack of women like on the stage and organizing events in hip hop in Detroit. And that a lot of what she was seeing was, you know, very misogynist, very like following a sort of mainstream music culture at that time in the, you know, late aughts. And so we got to see her, by the time we hooked up with her, she'd been doing it for only 2 years. So we got to be there for this entire journey and watch her sort of and other women involved like Mahogany Jones and Ms. Corona like mentor other women, so that by the end there was a pretty substantial group of women who'd come in and out of the foundation over the years between 2009 and about 2016. So it wasn't just a journey for us, but for them too. So when Kellie talks about sort of their, you know, how they came to understand their work and connections to the community and activism, that wasn't there for the beginning for most of them, right? Like things were just happening and unfolding in the city. We saw this happen like through Detroit's bankruptcy, right, leading into and after the bankruptcy, and I think they all kind of use their music and art and organizing abilities to respond to what they saw happening in the community, and how amazing to see all these women who really didn't have a place in Detroit's underground hip hop scene before now, organize collectively to build each other up, to use their voices, to have a say, because a lot of times, even though it's a mostly Black women running, you know, organizations and nonprofits and things in the city, their voices are often not heard or left out of this sort of, you know, mainstream media or planning or like, you know, government level ideas and visions for what was happening in the city. So that was
right. Just to piggyback up what she was just saying, that like one of the main arguments of the book is that cultural organizing, because that's what they did. They weren't just musicians. They were musicians that were organizing together in all kinds of way with a network of organizations. So cultural organizing constitutes political work. It's not side work. And so that's a major kind of argument that we make. And then, you know, we kind of create this concept of the vulnerable maverick, because vulnerability gets demonized when women claim it, and it's a strength. And so that they see it that way too. So this concept of the vulnerable maverick, and then also this idea of self-care. And self-care isn't just a me thing, it's a self and community kind of always looking in that dialectic of self and other, that really kind of, we saw this at work in this community. And so it's these bigger things that the music takes us to, that the book is about. And it's from everything from gentrification and anti-racist responses to, you know, multi-generational ways of connecting.
It's a good thing. I'm gonna let anybody that wants to jump in here with questions, just ask. So I guess, how is it multi-generational?
Because if you go to a show, in the local underground, everybody's families comes. So you'll have the artist and their grandparents and their parents and their aunts and uncles and the children of the artists and the children's friends. And they also reach to youth. A lot of their organizing is about involving youth. So, you know, Jay Dilla was a very famous hip hop producer who died prematurely. I think lupus he had, and he's a legend in terms of hip hop production. And so the organization used to be the foundation, now We Found Hip Hop, sponsored Dilla Youth Day, where they bring hundreds literally of kids into different sites. The last places were the Charles Wright African American Museum. And there'd be workshops about teaching them how to b-boy, or teaching them how to make beats, teaching them how to do graphic design and make t-shirts, teaching them how to write poetry. teaching them visual art, teaching them how to make their own instruments, all these kinds of things. And at the end of the day, it culminates in a performance, and everybody's whole families come. So it's a family-oriented kind of performance, because a lot of the times there were club kinds of contexts, but they were in public parks and art galleries and places where whole families could come.
Oh, okay. All right, everybody's nodding, but you're all on mute, so I don't know if you have any questions.
I think, right. Well, I just think it's great having this conversation with this group of ladies too, just because, we're all female musicians, and like on other calls, we've had different conversations about, what it's like being one of the only females in a band, or, with in the band I'm in now, there's another girl. And we were talking about how it's just like going to a guitar store or something like that. You just feel like you're being watched in a different way than just the typical store.
Yeah.
So it was interesting when I was reading through it, kind of feeling that solidarity that they have just working together on their craft. And, we've mostly been hanging out virtually and having some fun conversations. So we haven't been able to yet work on our craft, but
Do you all play together?
it's very inspirational to
Say
see
that?
the power of community. Sorry?
Oh no, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was done with that comment, but sorry. I think my internet's being not great right now, so sorry if it's bad.
Okay.
Right.
I don't have any real questions. I'm just finding it fascinating listening. So I'm just going to sit back and listen.
Thank you. And while we're not going to wrap for you at the end, but I think what we could do is we could share one of we'll play
We're not
video.
rappers. I'll drop a poem for you, maybe.
Yeah, okay, all right.
And then we could share a video
We'll
too
take that. We'll take
from
that.
some of the women in our book.
Right.
Oh,
That'd
that'd
be
be cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
we made a video. One of the the book lays out different chapters do different things. A lot of what we do is analyze the music they make. But in one chapter, we put them in the context of environmentalism. And you don't see Black folks and Black women in that conversation, and hip hop, certainly not. And so we did this ecological kind of musical intervention and made a video with them that's about music and place and space. And so all we told them is there's a call for us to collaborate together on a video and track that's about space and place and environment. And that's all the more they got. And two MCs went and wrote verses, and one of their producers gave them beats, and they both independently chose the same beat. And so they chose that beat, put their lyrics together, made the track, and then Beck and I sat in the back seat of a car with a speaker for the sound and played the beat while they rapped, and we went from scene to scene to scene in Detroit to make the video. So that would maybe we can share that with you at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we thought it was really important to do this book because at first we weren't sure what it was going to be. We were just like, wow, there's women. I've done previous work about women like electronic dance music, DJs and producers. And I was always curious to what was going on with women in hip hop in the city because you didn't really see much of it. I think that's changed radically, in the past 10 years, but thanks to work of like Piper and the foundation. And so when we first went, we're like, well, this is really cool. There's women doing hip hop. Like, what could we say about this? And it took us quite a while, right? That deep hanging out to figure out, Kelly was like, well, this is a movement study. Like, there's so much going on here, So that was really interesting. There's another point I was going to make about that. Oh, yeah. And the ways in which we thought it was really important to articulate, like Kelly brings up this idea of the vulnerable maverick. Because, women in hip hop were kind of had to fit a certain box or two in order to, whatever it was, get a record contract or be in a video, that sort of thing. And then you have the ways in which Black women have been, stereotyped, or what Patricia Hill Collins calls like these controlling images we have of Black women. So we thought it was important to highlight the work they were doing, and coin this term vulnerable maverick to sort of like break through these ideas, that we have about Black women and how it is that hip hop can be a means to doing that. Last week I was on a similar kind of forum, and it was about like eliminating systemic racism in music cities. And one of the questions was like, how do we do that? So I brought this up because I think it's important for everyone to see people of color, right, women especially, as, you know, multi-dimensional, you know, beings, the way they might see other white people or whoever might see other people like them as the starting point, right, to getting there. So I think that's what's really rewarding about like doing this work and doing it together.
Right, and one of those controlling images is the strong Black woman, which on the face of it sounds like a positive thing, but really what it has come to mean is that has to be so invincible and hardworking and always on that she can't be vulnerable and she doesn't have to need anybody. She's just all on her own and can raise her kids by her own and doesn't need a man, and that's not a healthy way to be. And so there's nothing wrong with strength, but not in an ahuman way where you're not connected to other people. And
people just see Black women,
right,
human and not connected to other people.
right. And you know, men get a pass at this. You know, the most hippest hip hop artists today, the men. Hey, can you shut her up? Sorry. Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole, these kind of, they can be vulnerable and people applaud them. But when, you know, women do it, you know, let Missy Elliott cry on stage and people are like, what happened to her? She just, you know, was it her period? You know, I mean, all this crazy stuff starts happening.
Right.
When women show their, you know, strength and vulnerability at the same time. It gets spread as, you know, raw emotion instead of anything else.
Well, I thought it was interesting in there how the conversation about how a lot of women just weren't open to that yet. Like they were very comfortable being like a sexy lady, and they didn't want to give that up. Like that was part of, and it's not that they have to, but it's just not seeing kind of the.
Oh yeah, they were comfortable with the stripper context and jello shots,
right.
and, you know, bitch will ride the pole. Like really, I mean, Piper a million times would say, these are grown ass women telling us that there's just too many, you know, gay looking women here and they're not going to hook up with the man. It's like, what? You know, I mean, the women were saying that as much as the men, and they were comfortable with that sort of mainstream way that you know, women are in hip hop. And there were hardcore rules.
That's all that you see, right? When that's all that you see,
right.
you're sort of socialized, you know, like into that. So it took a lot of work on the foundation's part, you know, like Piper would do things like, if she had events, she would just play, you know, she sometimes is really subtle. All the videos in the background would be videos by like women in hip hop, right? Like you might not even notice it at first, but it would like take a while to be like, oh, interesting. And then there's some women in like, you know, b-boy crews in Detroit. So she'd invite the women to come dance at events, you know, to highlight what they were doing too. She'd feature work by, you know, women graphic
visual artists,
designers, but visual artists, you know. And it wasn't anti-male at all, you know, but at first you know, some guys saw it that way because for the first time I think they weren't the center of attention. But they did a lot of educating in the community, especially with the 5E gallery that she had for a while with DJ Sakari. So it was a space to educate, you know, not just youth, but whoever. And I think over time, you know, she'd ask hard questions of these people, like, why are you like think about what you are rapping about, for instance, you know, like why those lyrics if they were derogatory, and just kind of, I think a lot of people, especially young people, hadn't been asked those questions before. So it was a really educational experience on many levels.
It was also interesting to watch them grow themselves, because when we first met Piper, we interviewed her the first time in 2012, I think, she did not want to be identified as an activist, and her language was not what it is now, right? But she and another guy heavily involved in the foundation named Bryce Detroit went to the Chicago Freedom School, and it was a kind of activist training. And it's where she learned the language of oppression and, you know, intersection, all these academic words that have activist kind of applications. And it changed her whole world. Now she'll call herself an activist. She's more comfortable with cultural organizer, but she'll use that language, and she teaches other people that language because it changed her life, right? So I have a toolkit now, and before I didn't resonate to these things because I didn't know how it was relevant to me. And so, I mean, she changed and openly started reflecting about, this is about building community. It's not just about getting women on the stage. And even Mahogany, who was one of our closest interlocutors through the whole thing, still even now, because she's moved to Florida and just had a child. but she was like, I used to, like, no, I'm not doing gender. I'm not, don't call me a feminist. And, she completely changed the way she thought about it, did a whole album that was just about that sort of stuff. And now she leans all the way into it and talks openly about it, that it was a paradigm change for her. And it's like to hear her say that, such an academic sounding thing was like, wow, we've morphed together.
I was actually reading, what was the name of it? White Fragility at the same time that I was reading this. And so it was so interesting with, because I feel like right now, one of the, big things of Black Lives Movement is it's like, white people, you have to realize that, there is, we have a lot of privilege and we need to, acknowledge that and do what we can to make sure everybody has equal access to different things. But, and so reading that and then reading this book and seeing how on the sexism, it's like, there's still so much more work that needs to happen on that front. I mean, on all fronts, there's a lot of work that needs to happen, but it's just interesting kind of thinking from both perspectives and just, there's a lot of work left to do.
And that's a good, nice transition to talking about race a little bit, what it was like for us as two, white women who don't live in the city. I grew up hanging out there a lot. It was like the biggest influence on my life probably, but not living there to do this work, right? So we had to do, and we talk about this a little bit in the preface, but we spent a lot of time processing this together, processing this with like Piper and other women. It took a long time because that's just how long it took to get it right.
And it took making mistakes, like seriously misunderstanding each other. I remember one night I do poetry. I'm not a rapper, but I can do some spoken word. And I headlined at the open night mic, and it was, thank God it wasn't a big audience, because I was like, really, the headline, how about if I just do a poem? But I did. And the last poem I did was called Dear Nas, and it's a response to, if you know the artist Nas, he's a rap artist. He came out in like '94. One of the songs he has in a more recent album, right when Obama was becoming president, he had an album called Untitled, and it was supposed to be called The N-Word, but the label wouldn't let him call him that, so it was called Untitled. And he has a song on it called Testify, and he's really talking to his white fans saying, yeah, you think you like me, but would you roll with me? Would you ride with me? And so I have a poem that's a response to that. And after the end of the night, Piper comes up to me and she goes, Dear Nas, all right, go ahead and stay white. And I was like, the only way I knew how to interpret go ahead and stay white was, you're trying to act black, girl. I was like, what? I mean, I didn't say anything at the time. The next day I texted her, I'm all, Piper, I'm pretty offended. I wasn't, I'm as white gets, and I know it. And I was not trying. She's like, you missed it. No, that's not what I meant at all. I meant stay in your lane. You're doing well. All right. But all I thought she was like, I might have had blackface on up there trying to do something really bad. And she was like, no. So, we had to make those mistakes.
So I have another question for you. So how did you two meet? Like while you were down there or through campus? And I know you had the hip hop community support, but who else supported you in this work? This was a lot of work. Who said this is a great idea? Your faculty, we'd love to see you write this book. We can't wait for it. We're going to give you a lot of money to write this book.
Oh, no, we didn't get that.
No. Yeah.
Go back and go.
Right. No one gave us any money. I'll start with that. But we are very grateful to OU for giving us jobs, and part of our job is to produce research. So that was good. But basically what happened is I'd gone down, I looked in the Metro Times, there was an ad that said, Tuesday night, the foundation at Old Miami, like women in hip hop. So I'm like, I'm going to go check this out. So I went a handful of times, and the first time I went was a 2-year anniversary party, and it was this crazy, like awesome night with like balloons and party hats. And I was like, whoa, like what is this? And then I invited Kellie to come. So I'm like, oh, come check this out. So then Kellie was like, wow, this is really cool. There's DJs on stage, kind of like, men schooling other, young men on stage about what they're saying and, doing up there. And then we just sort of were like, we really like this. This is cool. Maybe this could be a research project. And it helps that we're in the same department, but we kind of had, overlapping, but not the exact same academic background. So it was very complementary. And like I said, we weren't sure what it was going to be. So first we're like, oh, maybe we can do an article or two. And then it was, it just kept going. And we kept going. The foundation kept going. So eventually, we just sort of figured out how to make this a book. And there were some really cool people involved. I don't know, for instance, do any of you know who Naomi Andre is? It's just one person that comes to mind.
She's at U of M.
She teaches at U of M in women's studies, and her area is Black people in opera, because there haven't been that many. So she's written a few books about Black people in opera, and then she just sent me something this week saying I think she just started some kind of organization for Black people in opera, and she has like a Zoom thing tomorrow at 4. If anyone wants to go, I can forward you that. But like we started out doing tiny presentations where we really didn't know anything, and we did one at Michigan for a group of grad students, and she came and she was so encouraging, so it even was just a handful of people that were like, wow, this is really neat. You really should do it, learn more, do this project. So I can just name like a handful of people that really made a difference. And she was one of the first ones. Like she was like, this is gold. This is amazing. And we didn't really know yet, right? We didn't know what direction we were going to go with it and with the theory. And we were just like, here are some people doing cool stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it reminds me of what Margaret Wheatley said, who Grace Lee Boggs likes to quote a lot, that like change and is made of like critical connections, not necessarily critical mass, so it was just these critical connections that were really encouraging, as well as like the people we talked to in the city and the artists we wanted to write about, right? We wouldn't have pursued it if they weren't on board. But it's mostly about the women, but there's also a chapter where we talk a lot about like a group of men who are really supportive.
Definitely. So let me go back a little. This is how we met. When Becca interviewed for her job at Oakland, she was 900 months pregnant. Like she dropped her son 2 weeks after this interview. And I was the one that got to cart her around. And she's like, oh, we're going to drive? I'm all, yeah, we're going to drive. I'm not letting you walk across campus. You look like a bowling ball, So that's how we met. And then we hired her. And it took about a year for us to figure out we had things in common. We had dinners and hung out with mutual colleagues. But until she invited me to the hip hop night, it was like, oh, wow, we have to do this together. And it was funny because like we started doing this project. She goes, I've never seen your writing. Do you write well? I was like, you remember that? I laughed so loud. I'm like, yeah, I can write. But I haven't for a while. So it's a good question, So that's how we met. But the support we got it was like little things that added up, but not like big money. Like our department chair did little things like give us schedules so we could work together. Like we'd have the same teaching schedules, we'd have the same time off. And Shay Howell, do you know who Shay Howell is? She's a big activist and was involved with the Bog Center. She led us to everybody in Detroit that was really important and sister organizations that was connected to the foundation. Our dean would throw us little things here and there, and other colleagues noticed our work. We did presentations at Oakland's campus. We brought artists once for the Women in Gender Studies Film Festival and they performed. And so we got a lot of colleague, go, not like here's some cash, but because it was all on us to do it. It didn't take grants to do it because we just drove back and forth to Detroit and it was our time that made it happen. But it took 8 years to make this book happen.
Well, I'm thinking there's a lot of parallels with bass playing women in terms of, except that bass playing women tend to be like most bass players, kind of quiet, right? I mean, I can't even walk and play bass at the same time, I realized. I'm trying to figure out how I can sing and play bass. I can't even walk. And I don't know what everybody else thinks, but I'm sure, there's not a community, and I don't think there's a book, I looked it up, on women that play bass, which is really surprising because there's more than we thought, but because they're kind of quiet, staying in the pocket, not all of them, of course, they do get noticed if they're like ultra sexy, I guess.
Right.
But, that's not what most bass players want to be out there doing unless they're on a big stage. I don't know. Anybody else? What do you think? You're all muted, so I can't hear you.
Right.
I
That's why we
agree.
gotta stick together. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you guys come to know each other and become a group?
I'll let Z talk. She explains things so great and she's so out there. Are you going to talk? You got to unmute.
Okay. Well, I mean, we're basically members of the Detroit Bass Players, which is a mixed bag, men and women. And I'm not even sure how this breakout session began because I don't live in Detroit anymore. I've been living in Massachusetts for the last 8 years.
But you've come back to Detroit for like Bass the Basement.
Yeah, I come back for bass day and occasional basements, or I mean, I'll find some excuse to come back to Detroit for a visit.
Yeah.
Every,
I guess, yeah.
every year the Detroit bass players get together and either like often it's in front of the Motown Museum for a photo shoot, and so everybody comes with their bass guitar, and so that's where we all met in person pre-COVID. And then there was always like a really fabulous show that Kern Brantley, one of Detroit's greatest bassists with like such an amazing heart, that he puts on with a lot of really talented. So yeah. What is that?
My cat has a weird coughing. I'm gonna mute it.
Sounded like he was scratching like
the cat.
It's like a good beat.
Right.
Okay. All right, Bass Lady. How'd you come into this fold? What made you decide this was a good idea? This
As far
group of women.
Oh, because nobody else is doing it.
Yeah.
So why not? We need to have a place, a safe place, a place where we as women who play bass can get together and just talk, just chat, chew it up, get to know each other, get to know likes and dislikes and all that other stuff that comes along with it.
Yeah, I agree. And we have fun.
Yeah,
Mary
absolutely.
Jane looks pretty quiet, but she's usually back there shaking, whatever new hairstyle she has going on. But
she's at work,
she's working, so I
yeah.
saw her as we're walking around at the same time. Oh my gosh! So it's been a fun group. We interviewed Double Z, who claimed she was one of the first female hip hop. Yeah. So that was pretty cool. Anyway, so it's not quite as much community building because people tend to kind of work on their own stuff. They have a thing where they one of the bass players would have a monthly get together in his basement, and they'd bring in like famous bass players, and you'd get to just sit 10 feet from Stevie Wonder's bass player and ask him to show you something. So that's been fun. So it's different ways. It's smaller, and then a Facebook page. But there's, I think I went through and counted, and there's fewer than 10% women. I'm a scientist, and we're better than that. Not much, but some. So, and all the stereotypes are there. I wondered, one of the things that we talk about with women, and I don't know if you all have heard of this imposter syndrome, and when people think they aren't as good as they really are. Do you see that in artists or not really?
Well, that reminds me of is Piper said, that part of what she had to do for the first few years was she had to be very pushy. Like she knew women could do it or had been practicing or whatever and hadn't performed on stage maybe, and they were really afraid to do it. And she just was pretty much full on just pushed them on out there, because it's hard when you don't see people in your community like you up there doing something, right? I think that's sometimes where imposter syndrome comes from. So they didn't have a lot of confidence, some of them, right, at different times. And that's sort of what she saw as part of what she did was just push them and get them on there, so that they could see that they could do it, and that they were skilled and talented.
Yeah.
I think sometimes there's a problem of people being socialized to take a back seat, us women in particular. And so that, someone might be an absolute brilliant poet or brilliant whatever, bass player or whatever. And, they just they don't really have the confidence because they all their lives they've taken a back seat or they've been told to take a back seat.
Yeah.
And then some of these male-dominated fields, I mean, I've been in several fields myself. I was once a photographer, I was a piano tuner, and other weird stuff. And the assumption was on part of the men that, well, women could do the job, but not as well as a man.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, what that translates to is that we have to work 4 times as hard to get half the jobs.
And then often once more and more women start doing it, then sometimes there's this rhetoric of like, oh yeah, whatever, anyone can do that, right? So then
Yeah.
It was either that or it was like, oh, I'm just not feeling female MCs.
we get that a lot, these general blanket statements. I just,
Mhm.
yeah, women rappers. Like,
Yeah.
I don't hear anyone say that about men who rap. But
Well, are you working on another project right now, or are you just taking a well-deserved break now that the book has come out?
mostly well-deserved break. There's a lot happening right now. I've just learned that my children, I think, aren't going back to the classroom for possibly the whole year. So trying to balance my job as a professor and homeschooling is going to be interesting.
Right.
There's one small project we're working on. Maybe Kelly wants to talk a little bit about it.
Well, we have a kind of a plan for some pieces that we want to do that's connected
How about
to
the Mama Soul one?
Right, I was going to start with that, but there's an artist that we fell in love with during the course of this project, and she's not in the foundation, but she was a friend to the foundation. Her name's Mama Soul, and then she's with a group called it's Mama Soul and the Nuts, and it stands for New Under the Sun. That's what Nuts stands for. So
They're from Flint.
they're from Flint. She's lived in Detroit and taught at the Marcus Garvey School and been
Performed at the DIA.
all over Detroit at the foundation, had many different like Black Women Rock. She's been involved in a lot of, anyway, she's fantastic. And she's like, just love oozes out of her. She's very spiritual. She's very positive, and she's brilliant in terms of how cunning and clever her lyrics are. So we're doing, she has a piece called Manhood, and another hip hop artist, I don't know if you know her, Rhapsody. She's a fairly new emergent woman in hip hop. She's really cool. She kind of blew up in the last couple of years. She has a music track and music video called The Man, right? And so we're comparing these two, they're women's interpretations of what men and young men face, and how we end up with institutionalized racism, police brutality, that sort of complex. And that's what Rhapsody does. But Mama Soul's piece is more about lifting up men and showing us sides of men that are family oriented that we never see in the mainstream imagery of hip hop, where the violent male that's hypersexual is the guy that's the cool guy. And so we're looking at, what do we learn when women talk about masculinity in a way that isn't just a critique, it's an uplift. And we're comparing those two artists who aren't necessarily foundation artists at all, but we, came to think about them more during our time with the foundation. And Rhapsody came here and headlined the very last foundation annual anniversary party. So
the second last one.
The second to the last one, yeah. It was tied to a conference that we did, a Women in Hip Hop conference. So, that we're working on that. But then there's some other things we want to study in Detroit about, there's some artists that were involved in the foundations and men, Bryce Detroit and Will C. They've coined these terms, entertainment justice. And the other one is, that Detroit artists are cultural diplomats. And so we want to explore those ideas in their music. And then there's one other artist, his name is Sacramento Knox, who does this indigenous sort of hip hop. He's Latino and Native American, and he does a lot of tributes to ancestral kinds of things and talks about colonialism and all kinds of really fascinating layered things. And so we're looking at those sorts of artists to kind of understand the broader kind of underground hip hop community. But that might not be a book. That just might be a bunch of articles.
Yeah.
Where do you publish the articles? Where can we see them as they come out?
Well, we can tell you we have 5 articles in addition to this book that we've published in outlets, but every piece we kind of figure what journal is best for it. So right now we're thinking about American Studies journals because they're very interdisciplinary.
Academic journals.
So can us non-academics access it?
Yeah, like we did this piece
Some
about
of them.
local artists, Essence. It's an arts, and it's an open, what do you call it? Open access journal. So you have to have a membership. And same with our piece that has the legendary video. It's open access online journal. So if you want to see the legendary, it's in the book, but if you want to see the visuals that go with it, like all the pictures of the different parts of Detroit that we took, the neighborhoods and the video, it's in that piece. But these ones will probably be in American Studies journals, like Journal of American Culture and American Quarterly. So if you stay in touch with this, we'll let you know.
I was trying to find the video to show them the video.
It's
Yeah, I shared screen. So if you want to show us anything, go ahead. Show it.
I'm in the
volume 8 of journal.
I'm in the article, Kelly.
Uh-huh.
I don't see the video. Okay, there it is. Hang on.
There it is. There's an arrow on like 10 pages in.
Do you guys have any other questions before we watch the video?
You might have some after.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So,
all right, cool.
share the screen.
Yeah, you should be able to share the screen. If you can't,
Okay.
let me know.
All right. Let's see. It's saying it's asking me to open system preferences. Oh, hang on. I think I can do it. Oh, what? Oh, hang on. The Zoom will not be able to record the contents until it is quit. Oh, I don't know.
Oh, must be proprietary, huh?
But it's in an open access journal.
But I'm recording everything, so I'm surprised it's not letting you record everything.
I want you guys to see it. So
You need to figure out how to see it.
email you right now the link. Can you share it on your screen?
Yeah, put it in. Can somebody else open it and chat? I can try.
Okay, I emailed it to you, but let's try the chat. That's a good idea.
Oh, you did?
Just right now.
Okay. Might work, might not work.
Right. If not, I might try one.
I got you. Actually emailed it to me. I got it. Let's see. Is it the video of the greenhouse?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Let me see. And it's on page 10? Sorry, I don't know how I'm gonna edit all these conversations. Where am I going?
Just as soon as you scroll
Here,
down.
I think I have it. Should I try sharing my screen?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Share screen.
Takes a
Looks like
village.
a lot of writing.
All right, you guys ready?
Okay.
Oops.
Yep. Oh, wow.
Where'd it go? All right, here we go. Okay. Oops. Sorry.
I'm not hearing anything.
This is the credits come before the music.
Oh, okay.
Piper thought it was important to put that first, so here we go.
All right, you should hear it now. Where's the sound?
Giant stuff.
No, we should be having audio now.
Yeah.
You guys aren't hearing it?
No.
Bummer.
Dang it. Well, we'll put the link up there so everybody can see it.
Okay.
Can you? Yeah.
I was hearing it, so.
Okay.
Oops.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, that is a bummer. I don't know.
Well, they got to see the nice little intro.
Yeah, shoot, okay.
Well, we're just gonna have to listen to you rap then instead, I guess.
Oh, we don't
There we go.
rap. We're
Your poems.
Yeah, right.
Are you serious?
You don't have to if you don't want to. It was a very last minute request. I kept
Yeah, you don't have to do anything.
I haven't done poetry in so long.
Okay, now I see this on this screen. Maybe it's watching. Oh, maybe we can hear it now, huh?
Let's try it one more time.
Oh,
I hear it.
I hear it
Yeah.
buzz.
Yeah, I heard
Yep.
that was last time too, but that was it.
No, I hear it.
We don't.
You don't hear it?
There we go.
Oh, now I hear it.
Cut now.
Yeah. Socialize and be confined. Show me how to redesign. Constructs created and traps baited for my demise. I despise lies. I spy with my mind's eye. I see so much injustice, no way the scales are blind. Well, crime so high, graduates so low. Why my taxes so high? Response time is slow. Don't care about my welfare. Don't care about my health care. Don't care about my whereabouts as long as I'm saying elsewhere. Where? Why? When? How did we get to the place where we are now? Yeah, so being pushed to the edge. Mess around, we gon' jump up off the ledge. The ledge, huh? Horizon, odds are getting even increased in summer season. In '67, we rioted when we weren't invited in. We were kept divided when we applied for loans. Denied to move into homes we can own unless we clone. A certain tone of skin akin to those as if goals for those more than our businesses. Flattened all of our images. Paradise and valleys we live trapped in division where rules and regulations are racially motivated to ensure certain populations staying educated. Now that's marginalization. Push us to the edge.
We gon' jump up off the ledge and fly.
Yeah, doves cry.
But real legends never die.
Real legends never die. Yeah. Real legends never die. Push us to the edge.
We gon' jump up off the ledge and fly.
Yeah, doves cry.
But real legends never die.
Real legends never die. Yeah. Real legends never die.
Black girl, broken city, pretty woman, beauty in the gritty. Detroit Bing, see the juxtapose in the flow. When you from this town, you see many things grow from the concrete when it ain't supposed to happen. I'm talking real life, I ain't talking about rapping. See the headlines, we are disenfranchised. When we got them limits, what we do, make that lemon pie. That's why I walk with my head high, cause it's twice as hard as a chick, but I get by and stay fly. Yeah. People study the ruins, got the whole world watching, seeing what we are doing and how we build, how we lay the foundation. It comes naturally to birth self-motivation. It's our DNA to give birth to pure greatness. Yeah, even when marginalized, you can't strip strength that comes from pride. Like you can't take black out of beauty or real out of who we are, cause the soul goes far and the spirit never dies. When you see Detroit women, please recognize.
Push us to the edge.
We gon' jump up off the ledge and fly.
Yeah, doves cry.
But real legends never die.
Real legends never die. Yeah. Real legends never die. Push us to the edge.
We gon' jump up off the ledge and fly.
Yeah, doves cry.
But real legends never die.
Real legends never die. Yeah. Real legends never die.
That's it.
I like it. So who did the video for that? Did you do it? Or
We did it with
We did
Piper.
together. Piper shot it. Oh, go ahead, Becca.
Well, we all sat down one day and we all kind of conceptualized it together, and we brainstormed some locations, and then Piper, because she's a photographer, she brought the camera and she shot the video, and we helped with the audio, holding up little iPod docks so they could hear the track while they were.
Yeah, we were behind them the whole time, holding stuff, either in the back of the car or standing behind them. And
But the coolest part, right? One thing we think is really important is collaboration between artists and academics, because like Kelly said at the beginning, we took this whole project to a national musicology conference where they're not used to seeing hip hop artists. And frankly, there aren't many people of color in that academic organization. So we just think that was it was very different from some of the other work that was presented in that session, but really important, and people were really interested and engaged with it. So
we talked about the paper that we wrote. Then the two artists, Mahogany and Neek, rapped over the beat right there live, and then they came up on the podium with us and took questions from the audience. So we were together the whole time.
wow. Mary Jane had a question at break. She's at work. Have you met the pioneer female rappers? Tell us about the pioneers and that women rap.
You mean in Detroit, or you mean the commercial pioneers? like like MC Light and Queen Latifah and Roxanne Stark. Those people are the legends that came out of New York. We know who they are, but we didn't meet them.
Yeah.
But the legends here. The legends here would be, I mean, from the beginning. What was her name that used to be at the hip hop shop all the time? Redbone. We met Redbone, and she's a legend, and she's hardcore, right? Miss Corona, Ill
Weaver, Invincible.
And then what's the lady's name that she was the first that's now the social worker that does anti-racism in sports culture? What's her name?
Moni Love.
No, Moni Love is in New York. She's like big, but this is a Detroiter. I can't think of her name.
Rebecca, you're still screen sharing, so let's go back to if that's okay. Just turn it off. Turn off. Perfect. Thank you. Sorry. That's okay. So sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Kellie.
That's okay. I don't know where I went. I don't see me anymore.
We haven't met.
I don't know where you went either.
But we've met all the local legends.
Oh yeah.
There you are. And they're gone. Oh my gosh. The wonders of virtual getting together, but sure better. Mary Jane, what was your question specifically? Can you ask yet? You're still muted.
Oh no, you answered. I was asking about the pioneers, like she just named all the pioneers, and that's from my area, New York City, like right now where I'm at, Brooklyn. You know,
so we love all those people. Like, does Moni Love still have a radio station?
No, I don't think.
Well, she had a show that was.
I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure. I thought she passed away. Is she still alive? I'm not sure.
No, Moni's still alive. She's still alive.
Yeah, it was God to be young.
Okay,
So early.
Sure. But we did meet Mahogany's.
But no, she don't have the radio station. I'm sorry, a subway train is coming through. So if you hear a lot of noise, I'm outside. I'm at work as usual, but I'm on break. So
we have met Tony Blackman, didn't we, Kellie?
Yeah, we met Tony Blackman. She's a performance artist. She works with all the pioneers. She knows them all.
Yeah.
She came out of Howard. What is the organization that Mahogany was in that Tony Blackman started?
No, but Tony Blackman is like one of Mahogany's, mentors.
Definitely.
So she's done quite a bit. And a lot of these, like Mahogany, Tony Blackman, they are hip hop ambassadors. So, this started during the jazz age, but they've traveled extensively around the world, like doing workshops and showcasing their skills and teaching other people how to use hip hop, for positive change.
How old are the girls in the video?
What was that?
Sorry, excuse me. I'm sorry. How old were the girls in the video?
Mahogany at that time, I think, was in her like early 30s, I'd say.
Yeah, Neek was mid-20s.
Neek was, quite a bit younger, mid-20s.
Yeah, we saw Neek. She was 22 when this started and just finishing college, and now she's married and has a son and is on her third album.
Yeah, wow.
Do you guys stay in touch with everybody? Like, is the community? I know
Miss Corona I talk to weekly. The biggest thing the biggest compliment we've received, I think, so far is Neek told us that this is going to be required reading for her son. And we couldn't hope for more than that. He's just born, But it's like, if you make this boy read this book in 20 years, then we've accomplished our goals.
And like you guys said about there not being a lot of women in women bass players, we don't know of even one other book that focuses specifically about women in hip hop. Like there's a book about women graffiti artists, which is one of the elements of hip hop, but most, all the other books are mainly about men.
Like they have gendered chapters, but they're mostly about men.
And they're mostly written by men, not all, but mostly. And then they might have something where they apologize for why it's mostly about men, but not really showcase, too many women. So
right. And I loved how Detroit focused it was too. Like Detroit music, women. Woo, I love it.
To learn that Detroit was a big part of the story. Like the women taught us that.
Mm-hmm.
That's nice. Oh, great. Any other questions, or do we get to hear the poetry?
Come on, Kelly.
We get to hear the spoken.
Well, I'll do it if you guys make me a bass. I need a bass beat.
A bass beat. Who's
Yeah,
got their?
somebody's gonna play some bass for me, so I have a little bit of, you know, music.
Wow.
You got your bass ready there?
Fine, anyone?
I need a minute.
Okay.
Okay, got it.
What kind of a bass beat?
Like dun 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 dun. Like that.
Or whatever
Just
else you
do
want.
that, yeah.
Or whatever you play, and I'm gonna try to do my poem to it. It's called.
Okay. Libby's getting all set up here.
All
You
right.
know what to do. Just play on that E string. You know, E
We had a
is
power
always.
outage.
All right, Libby.
It's only fair that we collaborate. Our project's about
I think
collaboration.
so. And now I know where to find bass players.
Come on, Zen. You know our favorite line. Play our favorite line, Zen. I think bass players are shy tonight. The female bass players are shy.
Are you gonna play, or am I just gonna drop this?
Yeah.
Are you
Okay.
playing, Libby? She's getting ready. She's on mute, though. You got to unmute.
Yeah, sorry, I had to. We had
You're good. You're good. You going?
power outage, so I had to.
Mm.
Let's see. What do you want? Can you hear it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's see. What do you? Well, sing your beat.
Bum 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 bum. Like that. There you go. You got the face right. All right. This is called Techno Lollipop. I hope I remember it. Are you ready?
Okay. Turn up a little bit, Libby. Sorry. I
Okay.
want to hear it all.
My husband's gonna be like, "What's going on down there?"
Okay.
All right. I'm just gonna go and we'll go together. All right. iPod on his fingers, BlackBerry in his palms. He's playing Grand Theft Auto. That's how he gets it on. Beckham blows his walls up. Beck spins his retro vinyl. Pixar's up 5 shares now. He's a cool, slick broker. Big blue tooth tags his lolly lobe, but he manages to find himself so often all alone. There's no gyms, time for girlfriends, or crisp open air. Just a computer dude sitting video flat and no crisp open air. It's robotic, empty but symbolic. What's he gonna do when his Game Boy crashes? Get the Bluetooth out your lolly lobe. Stop texting your kiss. His desire is all wired up to Facebook bliss. Oh my God. I'm forgetting the end now. Oh my God. Something like that at the end. How's he gonna lick his techno lollipop? I haven't done that in 5 years.
Wow.
Sorry, I
Right.
picked it out there at the end.
Love
Wow.
it.
Okay. All right.
Told you I wasn't a rapper.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
That was good. Yeah. Yeah. All right, Libby.
Yeah, thank you. It was impromptu.
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to tell Mary Ann, since
What?
you asked about the pioneers, there's a book that dropped like a month before ours called God Save the Queens. And it's all about commercial women in hip hop. It's about the pioneers, and this journalist that wrote it interviewed them all.
It's the untold story, because we don't really hear about them. And she actually endorsed our book on the back here. Her name is Kathy Iandoli, and her book's called God Save the Queens, The Essential History of Women in Hip Hop. So that came out this year too. And
Nice.
how did you guys find out about us?
I think I don't remember. I saw it in the paper.
Barely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you must have been written up in the Free Press or someplace where I saw it.
Oh, cool.
I was like, oh, this is, this sounds cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, no. Well, thank you. This has been great. We really appreciate it.
I think it's interesting that you guys have created a community for yourselves, and I've never even thought about women bass players and like what you would, maybe we can interview you sometimes.
That's
Okay,
what I've been
yeah.
thinking the whole past hour.
It's like, oh
I
my
love
God, I
it.
don't know anything about this community, and bass is my favorite thing in the world. So wow.
Yeah.
You know, maybe you should be doing the interviews because these are pretty randomly put together. And we're all
We're not
trying to play
professional
bass,
interviews.
and I'm trying to like do Zoom. So you are welcome to join us and be the interviewers.
That would be great.
We're usually just talking over each other, and we're
Yeah.
it's learning. Well, thanks again,
Well,
everybody.
thank you.
Yeah.
We'll,
Good night. Stay
see you
healthy and
soon.
safe.
All right.
Thanks,
Thanks,
guys. Bye.
everybody.
Good seeing you guys.
Bye-bye.
We can find that book
Thank
on,
you.
we can find that book on Amazon.
Yes, but we have a coupon, a 30% discount code. So if anybody wants it, just get in touch with us and we'll send it and you can share it with whoever you want to.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Perfect.
Thanks.
All right.
Bye, ladies.
Okay.
Thanks for asking.
Bye.
Yeah.